Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Across the continent of Africa, we have seen quite a number of activities that lead to regime change from countries in the West Africa where coups have taken place, in Central Africa, in South Sudan, in Khartoum, Sudan, in Eritrea, and in Tigray and Ethiopia. Libya itself is burning. When you come to Central African Republic, it's burning. When you go to Cameroon, it's burning. When you go to Nigeria, it's sinking. Every morning you wake up, almost over 4,000 from January to March, over 3,000 Nigerians have been killed and several kidnapped, taken by different sources that we don't know, and the forces, darker forces, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS, across the continent of Africa. The entire continent seems to have somewhere, somehow, people disappearing. What can we do to prevent this type of catastrophe happening to our countries? In Cameroon, for example, the country has been battling a war between Amazonia and the Cameroonian French-speaking country, a part of the country. The Amazonians want independence. Resolution 1608 of 1961 gave them the mandate to seek a referendum. Nobody has given them that independence. African Union has never taken up the matter. It has never come to the African Union discussion again. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, thanks to Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and other countries that have entered Congo at the moment to pacify, to rearrange it, conflicts are everywhere. When you come to Tanzania, when you come to Somalia, across here, battles and battles of regime change, people wanting a change, people being sponsored, people being paid to make changes. Arab states in the Gulf have moved on African continent, paid money to governments, paid money to ministers, prime ministers, presidents to create chaos on this continent. When you go south in Zimbabwe, a constant move of a threat to a regime change, people walking on the streets. In Malawi, people are walking on the streets. Is there something that is triggering this movement of regime change? The answer is yes, there is. George Soros, Open Society Foundation, and the United States of America government, which is currently the Democratic government of Democrats, they headed by Joe Biden. They always move to remove governments, not through military coups. If you are lucky in Africa, and you are not removed by a military coup when there is a democratic government in Washington, you must be like a president. What is happening to our continent? Why is the continent going this route? Why are we thinking of coming to the streets instead of resolving most of these things behind the scenes? What has come of us? Africa has been known of resolving its own difficulties without calling in regime change tactics or triggering mechanisms that can destroy our countries. There is a war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. But we are even being called upon by Ukraine to support them to fight Russia. Why Africa? Why Ukraine is not calling Asian countries to support them? Why is Ukraine not calling the other countries in the world? We are not the only continent. South American countries are very many. Why don't you call Brazil to support you? Why Africa? Why should a Ukrainian president tell African Union that I want to talk to your presidents? Are we seeing something which we don't want to speak about? I think I'll continue speaking about it until Pan-Africanism comes to this continent, until we redirect our efforts towards the rebuilding of our economies, towards the energy of infrastructure, giving the legacies of presidents who have done very well, like President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta of Kenya, who is leaving a legacy of infrastructure that is for future development, to take your goods up to the ports of export. We cannot do anything much until we realize what triggers elections, what triggers wars, what triggers violent regime change. Bad elections, bad elections, bad elections. If we arrange bad elections, if we prepare bad elections badly, George Soros will come in and give us the yellow ribbons. Bad opposition in Africa also gives bad triggers, gives triggers to a regime change. Opposition in Africa is also being used to just change governments for the sake of change. But what about the governments? The governments in Africa, some of them don't give opposition enough ground, enough stand, enough freedom of choice, association, assembly that is enshrined in their constitutions. Why don't we start working on those freedoms that will allow no foreigner to come into Africa to give us direction, to direct us, to force us to follow the axis of evil? A regime change that kills people, that leaves the country poor, like what took place in Libya, is not a regime change for Africa. I submit.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting from the Political Command Center in London. Viewers across the continents of the world, thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television. We are the only television station that discusses, that does not use American or British type of television apparatus, but African way of doing things. And we are doing it in a very candid way, that we bring a topic, we discuss it, we break it down. Everybody on this platform is an expert in his own field or her own field. and brings in questions, brings in suggestions. My television is a television for discussion, for teaching, educating people in Africa. Some manners, some mannerism. Do we have very good manners? We mindset is set. We have set our mindset to different things. We are gonya style. Gonya. We are borrowing. Borrow. Gonya. You know, we have a problem in Africa. Gonya. Every African leader you see flying there is borrowing. He's going to get it. Oh my God, it is. No! We have enough resources. Africa has enough resources. Why do you borrow? Why do you gonya? Every time. Why don't we use this? How many African countries have gone to borrow from another African country? I've not seen people. There's plenty of money lying in some African countries. For example, Nigeria. A government can borrow money from Dangote. Why haven't we borrowed money from Dangote? Dangote has more money. Why do we want to borrow money from people who plan to kill the continent, who plan to kill the black race? Someone is preparing Corona somewhere, and he's not saying Corona will come to kill America, but he's saying Corona will come to kill someone in Africa. There will be dead bodies. Did you hear that, Miriam? There will be dead bodies in Africa. That is Mrs. Bill Gates, Melinda. She was telling us that we will die now. Today, her husband is busy here smiling with us, enjoying our river, which is not dead, and moving everywhere in Africa. Why we Africans? My television wants to say the right things at the right time. But I was saying this is the value to speak. We are following the Plato Republic, the Socrates, Aristotle, pitting ambition against ambition, as Lincoln said, has nothing wrong. Speak. If you don't speak, you will fight. If you keep quiet, yesterday I gave you tips, and that's why you see everybody on the platform is fresh, including those people from Manchester United and others who are supposed to be, you know. Miriam went for a nap. She's very happy. She listened to her English music or Western music. She doesn't want Congolese. Very happy. I want Congolese. I danced the whole a few hours. I read my book. I wrote an article. Mr. Wanda, haven't you seen the article? Wrote an article. Folks, I am warning you. You have named me Mr. Redemption Strategy, but you forget that if you don't do Redemption Africa, you can run a gonya until you gonya. The money you gonya goes into conflicts. Gonya. I have learned that Luo word. I wish I had a Luo person to teach me all this. But unfortunately, the time is running out for me. I'm facing a 70. The people today, when they look at you, they say, hello, you are 70. I am 35 only. Thank you very much. Good morning, Africa. This is the television that makes people happy. Relax, Miriam. Relax, Elvis. Don't be annoyed, because annoyance sends you to grave very fast. If you are ever upset, you will go to the grave faster. But if you always laugh with people, even if people think you are foolish, you stay longer. How many people in Kenya and Uganda have not eaten food? How many people slept hungry last night? Millions. On one meal, water only, and that water is not even the piped water. Have they died? But if you go there right now and call for a public rally, why? They will come. It is the type of perseverance I'm talking about. They are not hired. They will not give them money to come. They come in their force because they love the idea of changing. Humanity, a human being, always a man, always changes. A man who does not think out of his skin does not belong to humanity. Good morning, Africa. Today is global, Matsanga's global trend, or Matsanga's global trend. Trends, is it trend or what? I don't know, Miriam, but that is it. In this global trend, we shall look at the shuttle diplomacy of Western countries into Africa. We saw America, Secretary of State for Treasury in Senegal. We saw her go to Senegal, Zambia, Botswana, and South Africa. We saw the Russian foreign minister in South Africa. We saw the European Union foreign minister in South Africa. We saw the Chinese foreign minister into Africa. What's going on? What is causing this tension? Is South Africa shifting away from the traditional backers? Is it going a different direction? What else can we learn from this? That's the topic for today. Plus, is the French policy assimilated, or is the French policy assimilating its own people but not Africans? Are French leaving Africa? Has it melted? Is it melting? And then we shall touch on Iran being bombed by Israel. Very, very early morning raid and all the nuclear weapons. But one question. They say when you bomb the nuclear, it kills all of us. Are we there? Are we dead yet? Where's this nuclear weapon? It is there. So what happens if it is bombed? And if the liquid was forming, doesn't it kill people? Miriam, have you ever gone beyond that international relations aspect of asking for who keeps these nuclears?
Yeah, I did international security. I've done
Yes, so tell me, you have done international security. Where this nuclear? Because me, I don't see the nuclear from Libya. I have not seen the nuclear from Iraq. Where do they keep them? Do they carry them peacefully, quietly, ceremonious, and dump them where? Okay, if they are those they have captured, what about the one that a plane is 2,000 miles away, Tomahawk, it bombs, doesn't it kill the people down there? Where does it go? In terms of international security, who keeps it? How sure that it cannot be used? How sure it's not a hoax? It's used just to bomb people. Those are areas that we want to touch. And when you reach that point, don't hesitate to show me where they keep them. And I will be convinced that there is a nuclear weapon of United Nations Convention on Arms, where they said this is the headquarters in Vienna. Are there any camps in Vienna where these nuclear weapons, all of them are brought and kept? Which country can accept to in case someone goes to open one, it kills all of us? So where do they keep them? Or it is just an international theory used to dismember some states? Those are some of the topics, and then we shall definitely end up by touching our Great Lakes region. What is boiling? Are we having a new friend? Are we having a new friend? Is it time for reconciliation? A redemption strategy? Miriam, I've said that word, redemption strategy, and I have been nicknamed redemption strategy. Mr. has come. He said Africa seeking a new way to find a solution to the problems they have. You make very little money, profit, collective taxation from people, but you spend the money buying arms. Excuse me, does it make no sense? You tell people that I will cut every money everywhere. You cut even the air, the internet, which is free. When it reaches your country, you tax the people. For us in Uganda, we pay heavily for being on Facebook. And it is a free thing given to the world. But in Uganda, you have to pay for taxes to be on Facebook. To type the name of Miriam, you have to pay. Have you seen that? And then after collecting that money from us, you go and buy arms. Why don't you buy a dispensary? Those are the things. As I run the mic and take my morning's tea. Good morning, Africa, in my beautiful punchline cup. And it is not milk tea, it is African tea. From Kilimanjaro, Tanzanian tea, green tea. And tomorrow I am looking for somebody to send me the Kenyan tea. I don't know whether it is from Siaya or from Kericho. I look forward for Siaya tea. As Mr. Wanda is also taking some tea. I think, Stephen, you will send me a cup. Then I will tell you where to send Mr. Wanda a similar cup. Good morning. So that we can have cups that are similar. Good morning, Africa. And this is, as I land the mic, over to you, Miriam. Let me sip my tea as a Liverpool player fan.
Okay. All right, so these are the headlines this morning. The Star newspaper from Kenya exposed 1 billion Kenya shillings school bursary scam. Auditor General report shows counties disbursed millions to non-existent students and institutions. The story is on page 7. Raila digs in as Ruto remains adamant. The main pictorial there, President William Ruto and Olelenku, that is the is it Narok or Kajiado governor there, and no, Kajiado, and then just below that is that meeting that was happening yesterday at Jacaranda grounds, led by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Activist and state clash over plans to cut down Gitaru fig tree. That story is on page 2. KPA KenGen Kenya pipeline among top state farms up for sale. You'll find that on page 4 and 5. The Daily Nation, Kenyans find ways to beat rising cost. Contrary to President William Ruto's campaign's promise to bring down the cost of living, prices of common commodities have soared during Kenya Kwanza's first 140 days in power, forcing citizens to devise tricks of surviving the hard times. You'll find that on page 6 and 7 on the Daily Nation. Junior high, here we come. What to expect today? And land fraud grabbers target Mavoko Street and Famous too. And then on Warpath, Raila alleges visit demands by Chebukati. Okay, a story is on page 4. The Standard newspaper, not let up as Ruto Raila trade words. That is the main headline, how falsehoods have generated election tensions. That is also there on page 6 and 7. And KQ warns of another lost season. And okay. That is on page 27. CBC acid test, grade 7 reports today. That is what we have there. And Liverpool's poor form continues. You'll find that on the sport page on page 40. And then we look at other papers from across the continent. The Daily Monitor from Uganda. URA on the spot, over 340 billion Uganda shillings gold tax row. That will be the Ugandan Revenue Authority. And then PLE results, the hits, misses, and what next. And varsity boss wants talks over fees. That is what you'll find on the Daily Monitor. The New Vision, also from Uganda, 4,000 moved in major CID staff shake-up. And the Newsday from Zimbabwe, ZEC chair, that is the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission chair, guns for rogue commissioners. That's not what you want to hear when a country is gearing up towards its elections, that they have rogue commissioners in the Electoral Commission. Zimbabwe is setting up itself for trouble there. The Daily News from Zimbabwe as well. Zimstat affirms ZEC poll reports. And then The Nation from Nigeria, Naira swap row deepens. The Punch from Nigeria, anger spreads over scarcity, reps oppose CBN extension. And The Citizen from Tanzania, Darport keeps close eye on Indian farm over fraud claims. That is the richest man in India. I've been watching BBC over the weekend, and they've been running that story there. He seems to have been involved in a lot of corruption scandals there. Now, Rwanda changes tack on fall armyworms response. That is what we have on the leading newspaper from Rwanda. So you are now up to date, Doc. If you have the papers from the UK. You're muted.
I have newspapers from the United Kingdom, and there are many not very good news. And oh my God, there's so many bad stories so far here now. Oh yes. Oh yes. The Daily Express of London. Let me begin with the Daily Express on London. Boris says, Putin told me I could kill you in a minute. And so, yeah, the men from Russia don't make me. So you went there to do what? What? This is a trained officer. And the Prime Minister is, the former Prime Minister is also seeking relevance. You have not trained in the army, you were never in the army, you never went to any training school in the army. Was Boris in the army? I haven't seen any background of any British Prime Minister, apart from Winston Churchill. The rest were Tony Blair, they just fluked their way in. And yeah, there's no prime. Churchill was only a war man.
But I think what he's saying is Putin threatened that, he could kill him. He could kill Boris in a minute. I don't know how that could happen.
Yes, but I'm saying, why do you go to a man when you are not trained?
Maybe they were having a...
Why didn't Boris Yeltsin carry Matsanga to go along with?
That is Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. Yes. He should have called me. And unfortunately, he's in the Conservative Party. But if he had been in the Labour Party, you can call me along. I'll act as your, operation. I can see the eyes whether they are going to kill us or not. Soldiers are very good. They smell the trouble ahead. Miriam, that's why soldiers are respected. If you grow up as a soldier, you iron your clothes, you wash your feet, you brush your teeth, you do everything in order. You live longer, you take a nap, you take a walk, you work. You remain there. Soldiers, generals don't die, they just disappear. Mr. Boris Yeltsin, he wanted to cause us trouble. Another world war, just as people, Bismarck, you remember what Bismarck did? The killing of that man, Bismarck sparked the Second World War. And it all happened. Again, we did not want this type to happen. But one thing about this, all this, why I'm talking about these problems, is why can't these countries, the superpowers, the two, sit down in the back room and find diplomacy to save us the chaos, the mutilation of internationalism that is taking place? That's the question for Miriam. Since you studied international security, you tell me exactly what you want to talk about. Why the two countries cannot meet and end the war. Will this war end? We shall be talking year in, year out. Who is going to win the war? That's what we want to see in our second part. The Daily Telegraph said Prime Minister sacked Zahawi without fair hearing. Yeah, the British politics is full of scandals of late, and I'm not surprised that anything to do with my Asian friends and people from Pakistan, India, and so many other places, there is always a trail of money was got this, they do their businesses, they are the richest people so far in London, in UK. All these are very rich because the type of richness, for example, the British Prime Minister has is not the richness from his hard work. Is just a richness because he married from a powerful family and it taught him how to make money. One question I want to ask you, Wanda, would you be very happy to be married by a woman?
No, I cannot.
Yeah, let's see. Someone is not very comfortable. Let's move on. Can you be married by a woman? The Indian culture is that.
But that is their culture. That is their culture.
So hey, hold the fire. Hold the fire.
But if Wanda, that happened here, then that would be...
I'm asking you, Wanda, if it was on African continent, would you be happy to be married? Let me hear from Wanda. Hold the fire.
Even if it was an African thing, unless it was so much rooted in us that our ancestors did the same, but just from nowhere, I cannot do that.
Do African men have male chauvinism?
But how do I get?
No, answer me. Because
yes?
African men, do we have male chauvinism?
In some sense, yes.
Okay. When did you last? I last quarreled 35 years ago with my wife. And when she brings a quarrel, I run out. I told you yesterday. I pick my kids, drive my car down the pub and drink. And then call her later on that I'm drunk, I'm in the pub. Finish, resolve the conflict. I'm a conflict resolution manager. Then when she comes grumbling, taking the car, because if we live there, they are going to give us tickets. And we shall all foot the bill. In London, we foot the bill, both of us. Come, if you don't foot, the goods are taken. All of us, all the goods will be taken. We shall all be outside on the door. But imagine in India where a woman marries you. Thank you very much. That happens. Let's move on. I don't know how Indian men, friends have told me stories, but the Prime Minister, a serious failure. Zahawi forced out over tax claims. This guy in London, if you even overtax yourself and you don't say it may be or may not, you don't write a statement to say approximately, and you put a figure which is very wrong, Miriam, you can be sentenced to even 7 years for 10 pounds because you have committed fraud. I don't know how this would work in Kenya and Uganda, where some people are exempted from taxation. I don't know. That is for you. But here you are. This man did not submit in the tax. He did not put in a claim. He dodged some because some money came by briefcase. He has said sorry, he's left. Here in Kenya, in Uganda, in Botswana, in Africa, in South Sudan, especially Juba. Are there any ministers who can say sorry in Juba if they find that the thing has not worked well? No. The Mirror says this Zahawi was a rotten to the core, rotten thief, anaiba taxation, anafanya money out of rotten behavior. May he go and rest in his retirement. Then we have Sudan has been urged to cooperate. The United Kingdom has urged Sudan to cooperate with ICC. But on this one, Britain, we disagree. I disagree. I always tell the truth. It's good I gave a copy to the Commonwealth Office. why the war in South Sudan, why Mr. Bashir should be charged in Khartoum, but not airlifted. And I let people mark my words properly. I have seen some people misunderstanding my words on this question of ICC. My position on Sudan is, yes, crimes were committed. Yes, people were suspected, arranged, witnesses were bought, witnesses were procured, coached, airlifted to Jamena, Cairo, and Djibouti for coaching and incentives, for giving them new passports so that they can tell lies. So we went to Sudan, I, Becky, and the African Union mission, by then chosen by the Secretary General of the African Union then. We managed to hammer a peace agreement, and Darfur came back to life. Darfur people live together. The Arabs, the black, the yellow, the green, all of them are there. Why do you want to airlift a man, one man whom you have captured? He's already in your custody. He's not even eating the food normally. Why don't you put him on trial in Khartoum? Why do you want him to be in the jail so that Karim can continue to earn a salary? Why? Why? What answers here? Why? Because if there are no prisoners there, ICC will not be there. Why are we creating prisons instead of creating peace? Peace has grown in Sudan. My point is, peace has grown in Sudan. Darfur people are living together with the Arabs, the blacks. Arab Darfur are living there. They speak the same language. They pray the same religion. They are not praying Matsanga's religion. Why do you want to disrupt that peace by airlifting their leader who is already in custody? Why don't we put a trial in Khartoum that can see Mr. Bashir facing a trial in Khartoum under the jurisdiction of the Khartoum law of having committed crimes against humanity under the Sudani law? Why? Why do we want Mr. Bashir as a flower girl in a jail? Whereas in Khartoum is a shortcut. We shoot by firing squad. If the case finds you guilty, you are killed by firing squad. Yes, that's the law, it's the Sharia law. Think about it, Miriam. And that brings me to the end of the British newspapers, where that was in the UK Independent, where the British government is saying that Sudan should cooperate with the ICC. But what is the ICC cooperating with who? Why can't the ICC try Mr. Tony Blair? Why can't we call upon Bush to be arrested? Yeah, you don't let the words not kill you. Come out to say.
No, I was just waiting for you to finish that. I think perhaps because when they led their countries to go and into that senseless war in Iraq and of course other countries, when you act on behalf of your country, you're immune, so you can get away with stuff if you do it in the name of the country. It's a realistic approach. Yeah.
No. Wanda, Miriam is saying something that I am not very conversant with.
That's why nobody can take them anywhere, because they did it in the name of safety and security, and according to them.
So does it mean that we Africans, we are very stupid because we make very stupid constitutions that allow our president, after they have finished their tenure of office, our constitutions are very punitive. They follow them, and we are allowed to hand them over.
Because we have allowed it. Just like you said, Doc. just like
Because we are beggars?
no, just what you've said. You've already answered that question. We have allowed it to happen. At this court, and you've said here, and I think we all agree, this was created for Africans. This was created to control Africa, to run Africa, to threaten Africa, and the leadership in this continent. For them, it's very clear. When you do something in the name of protecting public interest, when you're a president or a sitting and you take an action like they did, like Obama did, and when they were destroying Libya, nobody can take them to any ICC because they did it in the best interest of securing the interest of their countries and their interest in other places where they felt was being threatened. But for us here, if you do that, then the same people will come and will take you to the ICC because why? We have allowed it to happen. We have allowed it to happen. So that's why.
So, Wanda, your view on that?
My view on this case of al-Bashir and entirely African leaders to the ICC. One, Bashir is 79 years old. This is a man who is living his bonus life. In Africa, we are called such person the respect of our elders, the sense that one, this person was our leader. Number two is now our elder. I don't see the reason why the world is struggling with al-Bashir. Number two, we are in this mess because we chose to get to it. Therefore, it is a hook that we hooked ourselves. Therefore, it should be a struggle on how do we then walk out from the mess that we found ourselves in it. Not that any person took us there, but we as persons went there. Therefore, Bashir and the rest of Africa are struggling with the ICC because they acted blindly, joined the outfit that they didn't know the details of it, but now they're in the mud, they got hooked. So it is a struggle of walking out from it. But from where I sit, I feel like Bashir should be allowed to live his life that he has remained with on this earth before he bids us farewell or bye. At 79 years of age, you can imagine probably if he's to be with us for how many years he will be around here. And therefore, there is no need. I don't see any point of harassing someone at the age of 79 years. Rather, let the case be handled in Sudan, their military courts. Then, in a way or the other, have Bashir live his peaceful life. Even if there is a punishment that they want to accord him, then let them do it, but within the boundaries of Sudan. And as well as Miriam was quoting it, if Bashir did it for individual, for personal gain, then we can be talking about it. But if I'm told he did it for his own country's gain, either the military, either a certain section of the government or an arm of the government, then we are punishing this old man for the mistakes that he committed, thinking that he's doing it to safeguard the interests of his own country. Therefore, it is still a case of the leadership of Africa should have a sitting within the African Union, then rethink about all African nations that are members to the ICC or that signed that Rome Statute. Because we can't be going there, rather we can't be having persons leading us. We have given them their vote to protect the nation and do all those that pertains to promoting the national interest. Then when they make a mistake while protecting the interest of the nation, thinking that they're doing it either the right way or not, then we go ahead and punish such persons. Then there is no point of having those persons in the position of leadership. Therefore, the African leaders, and especially the 34 countries that are members to the ICC, should have a sitting, then rethink about the way forward, promote the African court, walk out from the ICC, then let them start with the Bashir's case. We should not be having probably Bashir being fought left, right, to the center. whereas the rest of the African leaders are just okay, while their peer is being, their colleague is being pushed from the left to the right. But it is a case or an issue that we took ourselves there. Those guys are just doing their mandate. They are playing their role. If the court was meant to harass or to push Africans in either quarters, then they are doing exactly the same. Then they are doing what they aimed at doing. They are addressing their vision. If the vision was to ensure justice in the rest of the continent, and they are not doing that, then we could be talking about it. But if I'm told we imagine or we are comfortable knowing that the ICC court was meant to frustrate African leaders, then indeed it is frustrating African leaders. Then from where I sit, I feel like it is serving the interest, the purpose why it was established. So it's only a case of then let Africans come to a realization that this court is not serving the interest that we thought it will one day serve, then walk out from it.
And while they are on Sudan's case, Doc, perhaps they should start also investigating, and somebody should take charges at the ICC. What happened in Ethiopia, we are told from what Obasanjo was telling us, almost 600,000 people died, and the Human Rights Watch in Ethiopia is approximating between 100,000 people to 1 million. So genocide happened in Ethiopia, and Abiy Ahmed is in the center of it, and the leaders of TPLF. So we also need accountability in that, if at all ICC is serious. Why is nobody bringing up the killings and the innocent lives of people in Ethiopia? But, and we're not sitting here saying what happened in Darfur is okay. It wasn't. And we're not sitting here sanitizing Bashir. We're certainly not doing that, but we're just looking at it from the point of these disbalances when it comes to how these international systems work and how they are so skewed towards advancing or just aim at a certain goal that they want to achieve, using these as tools and weapons. They've weaponized this court basically to achieve their own goals, and in the long run to just achieve their own foreign policy.
But at the same time, Miriam, I tend to wonder. When you look at the roles of ICC, the kind of cases that ICC is supposed to handle, then you look at our own court in Arusha, they handle almost the same cases. So why is it that our own court normally wait? They sit back, wait until ICC issues, or rather ICC takes a step, then we now start complaining. Why can't our own court, like we have a case in Ethiopia? Why is this African court very quiet about it? Are we waiting until that time when ICC will take a step? Then we now get out of place, or we get out with the triggers ready to pull them. I feel like our court at times tends to fail us. That yes, we have the ICC, but we have our own court. Why is our own court very okay, very quiet with the genocide? With the violation of human rights in Southern Sudan? Why is the same court very quiet with what is happening in DRC Congo? Or are we waiting until that time when ICC now comes up, then we are out?
Now, I have left you to juggle it out. Me, I have juggled. I've said my stand. As long as I live, I don't recognize the International Criminal Court. Full stop. It doesn't serve me. I would rather recognize Kibera Magistrate Court or Kampala Magistrate Court, because it has got competent people chosen on merit. The International Criminal Court has got people chosen through boardroom of perfumes. If you have a nice perfume, you become the director. If you have a nice one, you become a lawyer, a judge. The country can say, this is our best man who left Japan, Osaka. You remember one of the judges was called Osaka, the one who was charging President Ruto of your country, Kenya, former president, Osaka. Another one was called what? Another Katarina, ETD, what? All these guys are diplomats, collected, lawyer. They have got one category of law. And they come to run around to charge a man who has got 6 degrees. So it's not worth it. You leave it. Then what is the use of equality of education? We don't go to school to balance ourselves. If you're a grave digger, stick to grave digging. It's a very important job, isn't it? Grave digging in Europe is very expensive, and you have to wear a tie in order to remove it there. They see you, then you pass an interview to dig a grave in the United Kingdom, which Mr. Wachikoya was doing. So when you look at those type of things, until I had to rescue him from Camden Cemetery. Physically, I went there, they removed him. Said it's a very bad African act for you to be there. And you'll bring bad omen to us. So these are some of the things that are so bad that ICC is not worth for the international, the United Nations Security Council to say, cooperate with them. Cooperate, they want to forcefully install an office in Khartoum. But Khartoum is not a member of the International Criminal Court. How do you install forcefully an office?
But Doc, is it forcefully or the leadership that is there actually allowed them to come in? And we had this conversation here and we thought, what a joke this is, because we knew this case is not going anywhere.
But from my letter now, from the letter which I wrote, the leadership is different.
So no. See, that was last year when we still have the same guys, and we thought what a joke this is, because there's no way they were going to cooperate with the ICC. Otherwise, they'll be taking themselves to the ICC. So they were going to frustrate this process, obviously. But I think because of the pressure that Sudan is going through, and it really needs the international community, it had to act as if it is cooperating with some of these systems. But there's no way they were really going to allow or cooperate or give that information to come. So,
Miriam, thank you very much. Would you tell me why? ICC cases are linked to international community cooperation and sanctions?
Because they're the ones they made.
Why do you put sanctions on Sudan? Because it has a fugitive who has run away, who doesn't want to be handed over.
But those are the weapons. Those are the weapons that they use in diplomacy.
But we ourselves allow these things.
Yes.
We allow these things. There is a man going around saying that there is a disease coming for Africa. You allow him to come and settle and eat your food, enjoy your women at night clandestinely, then go. You know, and look here. And then he goes there, he says, there is something going to happen to Africa. So why are we the people being happened to? Why? Nyonye mniambie. Wala, apana. Ourselves, we are a problem.
We are a problem. And I think
we don't learn. That's why I wrote that article. Folks. Listen to my article. If you don't have a redemption strategy, Africa will never be the same. At least Mandela died and left the rainbow country with a redemption strategy. That the whites who were killing the blacks are today sharing one television station, talking like brothers. You get my point? At least today in northern Uganda, the Luo, the Lango, the Acholi, the Lukubaras, the Karamojongs are talking today with that Museveni. They are talking the same language. Matsanga brought a redemption strategy in northern Uganda. If it was not this man, the northern Uganda was on fire, was gone. The healing started. People are shaking hands. People are great friends. You see, even those who came to rape the children, some people have not seen their children up to today. But they have forgiven the people, the commanders who raped, and the country has moved on. Have you seen that? Those who agreed to sign an agreement are back in Kampala. who agreed to be airlifted by under Matsanga's arrangement, they are back in Kampala. I'm proud. You can go to hell if you want. Go hell and I will find you there if I'm supposed to follow you. Allah? But there is peace, medium, redemption started. We bring these problems ourselves. Look at what in Sudan. Look at the way we have left our leaders. The whole Africa, after the leader has finished his term, there are charges coming on his door. There is a president in Africa who lives in the mother's house. A very poor man. Nobody has even bothered about him. After he finished, he went back to live with the mother, and he sells cigarettes on the side of the road in Liberia. No, Sierra Leone. Can you Google that man? One day you know that you have seen that story. A president selling cigarettes, staying in the mother's home. We don't look after the British, Americans. They cannot allow George Bush to be dragged in its stupid tribunal. The British will not allow Tony Blair or Cameron to be brought on international inquiry. They would have killed their sovereignty. But we in Africa kill our sovereignty every minute we move. Gonya, 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 gonya. We are begging. I can see Paul Onyango, you have come here. Yes, Paul Onyango, welcome to the show. What did you say? We are on the question of how does Africa get away, stand on its own, speak with one voice? Shall we manage that? Paulo.
Yes, good morning, Dr. and the panelist, Miriam and Mr. Waisonga.
If it is not afternoon where you are, it's good morning. Thank you very much for me.
It's already noon. I thought it was still 11.
Yes.
Okay, my take on this matter is that even if we look at our own African unit, our African organization called the AU, the AU itself is still being funded by European Union and the big powers at large. We have not stood on our feet. So there's no way that we can claim our sovereignty per se as Africans. Maybe a few African countries may claim that, but if we want our sovereignty, one thing that we must be self-sufficient. We are able to support ourselves in all matters. Then when we still go for bank loans in the Bretton Woods, we look for money, we want development, we want amount of cash, foreign exchange in our banks, we still go for the Bretton Woods. There's no sovereignty that we can have. Another thing, this new idea that has come up, those who support a certain cause for certain big powers, those are the ones that maybe probably are being considered to be in power. We will not have that sovereignty because a lot of institutions that we have within their territory of a country, those institutions will be interfered with to support a certain cause of a particular class of a ruling president. Another thing, it's a good thing if we can have our own sovereignty. We will not lack food. We will not beg. We will not have our wars that we fight each other each and every day. We will not complain to any other person. We will not have the boundaries. The boundaries will be free for everybody. There will be free exchange of goods across the borders. We are going to limit the insufficiency that we have in certain quarters of a nation. Should we allow the intertrade between across the border? Like, for example, in Uganda, there is sufficient food throughout the year. Those who are starving maybe across Kenya or across Sudan, if the borders are not closed, where that people can intertrade, maybe through barter, where they exchange their goods, that one will make people be sufficient in one way or the other. But when we have restricted our movement and we have closed the borders, we'll not be in a position whereby we are growing each other in one way or the other. That sovereignty that we are looking for, we ourselves as Africans, we are the ones who have limited it by our own actions. We should not close borders. We should allow people to intermingle, intermarry, intertrade, such that we don't need to create more laws that will allow us to make certain steps that will make a long chain of issues, a long chain of, for example, a long chain of events such that before one transfers a good from one country to another, you need to follow certain steps so that you can be allowed to in another country. So if we can allow ourselves in a way that we consider ourselves as brothers and sisters, we should start with the most basic things whereby we can intertrade between the communities across the border. That's my take.
And Doc, just to add on what Paul is bringing there, I think goes to the conversation we were having here yesterday when we touched on the history of Africans and Africa, and how even the history that is taught in our schools starts from when the colonialists came or when the explorers came. It appears that's where our history starts, and bits and pieces of perhaps how these different communities came to be. But that is just not the only thing of who we are. We have so much that was there in existence before the colonialist came, but that is not what is highlighted in our history books. That is not what we were taught. That is not how we grow up understanding who we are as a people. So, Paul, the issue you bring about restrictions and borders, these were created by the colonists, and the agreement was after colonization was, and they created these countries and these borders not considering the communities or even the ethnic backgrounds, but how they wanted to divide it according to what they wanted to get. And after that meeting, the Berlin meeting during the scramble for Africa, so they divided it according to their own interest and which country is supposed to get what and until what point. So it was, and after they left, the agreement was these borders will be left the same. So we have continued, and when I was just listening to you make this point, we have continued with these restrictions, we have continued with these borders, and how we were left, and this segregation, and how we were divided, and we became very disunited in Africa. We have continued with this, and nobody has thought for us to go back and see how can we rebuild Africa through the African eye and differently, as much as we come from different countries, and maybe we can't change these physical borders that were imposed because now they became part of the international law. But how can we regain our Africanness? Just maybe tap a bit of who we used to be and how we used to do our things in terms of trade and all these things you're bringing up, and just having the unity in our diversity. So I think we lost that. Instead, we have continued with this segregation and disunity that was planted, imposed on us, but now we have perfected it so much that if you go to South Africa today, they will lynch you because you are a foreigner, and yet you're an African. Look at that.
Okay, your point is very right. As you put it, you have built on what maybe I was saying. When we are, I wonder in the first place, when our African leaders meet at Addis Ababa, they say we are one people, we come from the same continent. Yet, even if I want to travel from, for example, I want to go to Jamena. I'm from Kenya to Nairobi. I still have to go to maybe to another country for me to reach there. So even if the means of communication itself, even the African leaders themselves, I do not know at what time have they put a time limit whereby that communication in between people themselves, before even if I were to do exhibition in another country, because most exhibition that is done in Africa, African governments, those who are in charge of trade, most of the exhibition they do in Europe. Is when you will go and realize there's a product from another country when you move to Europe or Dubai. But we can't do our own exhibition in Africa. So these are some of the challenges. Even the African continent leaders themselves, they are the ones who are creating these things. For a longer time, they have been sitting year in, year out, discussing African affairs, they're discussing about trade. I've never heard if there's any exhibition for African continent. Maybe it's being done maybe in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, or it's being done maybe in South Africa, maybe somewhere. So even the Africa themselves, the leaders themselves have not started driving the agenda to such that this closeness, it can be a reality. We are only writing in books, we are only talking in conferences, people are moving from one using flights, but that common goal, it has not been realized. Maybe the economic blocks, they have been clear. Maybe ECOWAS is the other side, we have East African here. These economic blocks still also, they take too long to realize that togetherness into one unit. So it is taking too long for these things to be realized. I think there should be a time limit that for these things to work, we need to limit it to a certain level whereby we meet these objectives early enough so that we can benefit for common togetherness, I mean.
For common purpose, yes. It's for a common purpose. Now, a common purpose in Africa, Mr. Paul Onyango, will take long to arrive. The people here think differently. As Miriam was saying, even you yourself, the only country where you are not discriminated is Uganda. Because when you reach Maraba or Busia, you say you are Onyango. We have Onyango across. Wanda, this man cannot be, Ogutu cannot be discriminated across. Miriam Ogutu, Wanda. We have Wanda in our district. In my clan, I have 2 Wandas. Yes. So there is no discrimination there. That's where it ends. But we have not globalized it. Actually, a British will welcome you better than an African welcoming you in his country. If you go to South Africa, for example, you would be told to leave. Someone will tell you, I welcome to Africa. Then you say, but I've come from Uganda, which is also Africa. I said, no, that is not Africa. This is Africa now. So we do have those type of mistakes that are taking place. They have taken place. We have a very dangerous terrain, and Africa is not united. There is a lot of hatred. There's a lot of, and they have brought one thing that divides Africa, Miriam, every day, elections. You see, to keep you quarreling, you must keep on doing elections every 5 years. Show me anywhere in the Plateau Republic which told you should conduct elections every 5 years. Excuse me? Maybe I did the wrong political science. It told you every 5 years? Where? Where? You know, we Africans are very, ourselves to blame. You jump on something and carry it. You find that a horse is going to break the leg the other after 100 meters. But you say, apana, wacha tuende tu. And the horse reaches there, you don't reach where you want. Who told you that elections should be every 5 years in Africa? Where you spend 100,000, 100 billion. Some countries it spends even 200 billion, like a Nigeria one. Nigeria is spending 200 billion naira on an election every 4 years, or is it 5 years? Who tells you? How do you allow a luxurious thing like that? It's luxury. That's why in Britain, people don't vote. They sit home. It's luxurious. There's no law in Britain that says you should go and vote. You can sit home and listen to the results. When they say Labour has won, you say, yes, we won, we won. You don't. Nobody is going to check your finger whether you voted or not. It's luxury. Now we have caught what is luxury in those developed countries, turned it into a must that makes us quarrel every 5 years. All African countries, there's no exception, except South Africa. Zimbabwe, you read the report here. Even before the ballot papers are printed, there is a war of words between Chamisa and Mnangagwa. In fact, if they find each other in one room, one small one will end up in the stepped on in a boot. You see, there's a war there already. Nigeria is going to pause on 25th. My God, if you see the type of things happening there, you might think that we are more in Guyana, in Guyana than we are on Earth. I think Swahili word is Guyana is correct, isn't it? Guyana is hell. That is in my language, Guyana. Go what? Sodom and go what? There are two cities that were burnt down, Gomorrah. Gomorrah and what?
Sodom.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Guyana is in Uganda, means hell. We're already in Guyana, in the hell. I don't know Swahili mnasema Guyana. Sio Guyana, tunaenda Guyana.
Jehanamu.
Jehanamu. Our place, we have just changed those letters. Guyana. We have added the E. We are all Bantu, so don't worry. Swahili is for Bantu people. Now it has gone up to every tribe, Hamites, Nilotics. Everybody speaks. But the Arabs are not themselves, are not Bantu. The origin of the Arabs is not unknown. That's why they fight over East Jerusalem. It is the worst place where you can have sleep on earth is East Jerusalem, because you don't know who will kill you. You don't know who will kill you. If you are found kneeling, then you are Muslim. If you are found doing these hands up, you're a Christian. So you don't know which neighbor will kill you. So people there in Jerusalem sleep in their houses, even when it is daytime, they are sleeping. Work, most of the work in Jerusalem, internet has come, is done by internet. You rather stick in your house than walk there out in East Jerusalem. So, okay, our final topic is the shuttle diplomacy that was brought in by the Western countries coming to Africa, the United States of America Secretary for Treasury, the European Union Commissioner for Foreign Affairs. Then we have the Foreign Affairs of Russia coming to South Africa. What is the aim of this type of shuttle diplomacy? Stephen, I have sent you a clip. Look at and play that clip as we wait to come on to discuss. I don't know whether you have seen it already, but let me send it for you for the second time. There you are, Stephen. That clip was my clip. I was interviewed last week when they were, can you play it for people to hear what I said? Then we can from there make our conclusions. And there's not, Let's make this television a talking television, Miriam. And don't keep quiet and wait until I finish, because I could take 2 hours still talking. Always jumping and talk. Wanda, Paul, Miriam jumps in. Because I have a lot of material that flows like the River Nile. Oh, I could bring it.
Divide some.
Eh?
Divide some on my side.
Yeah, I'm dividing some. That's why I wanted this television not to be like a normal television medium. We wanted to talk issues like that. Today we have learned quite a lot of things. Look at what the sentiments that Wanda was talking about ICC. I didn't know that he knows some. Look at what Miriam brought out. There you are. Is it ready to go?
We need to give them a moment.
Yeah.
They're working on it. So perhaps, Doc, there's a question you posed earlier when we were starting this conversation, the interest that a lot of these Western powers have, especially in South Africa, because we've seen any leader from these countries, Russia, China, we saw the one from the US and all that. South Africa is very strategic, and I think I was reading another news item just earlier, and they were hoping that perhaps South Africa can use the influence it has to talk to Russia, and maybe it can help tilt this ongoing war in Ukraine. And I've seen also the Belarusian leadership heading to South Africa as well, and we know Belarus, they're close to Russia. The president, works very close to Russia. So I don't know, what is this interest that these powers have, specifically in South Africa?
First of all, some of the interests are just, Zimbabwe has just discovered oil. And believe me or not, that is now the battlefield. They have to do something in order to capture that oil. And two, South Africa is heading towards BRICS. South Africa wants to create a new currency called BRICS, which will topple the dollar. You must make sure that it doesn't run away from you. And to the shock of the West, Saudi Arabia says, we like that idea. We want to join India, Brazil, and South Africa to form our balancing act so that we can sell our oil in another currency. So it leaves the foreign policies of the Western Hemisphere naked. Therefore, you need to move quickly to harness, to pick what you can pick from South Africa, persuade them that please don't do this, don't go away. We still have something to give you. But what haven't you been giving? You have not given them before. So South Africa stands to gain. Listen to the tape that I have done. I don't know whether they have got it or they are still.
They're working on it. I think it should be ready in a moment.
So that is the way the things are, Miriam.
Because
there is a good demand, a good position that South Africa is most likely to neutralize the Ukrainian war. Mm-hmm. Because when everybody in Africa refuses to say we are not, there are so many things happening here on this continent. Look at what America is doing. It sponsors a motion to support expulsion of Polisario Front of West Sahara from African Union. And 21 politicians not countries. From countries that are well known, they have petitioned to remove Polisario from African Union. And this is going to be a battle. Come on 15th, 17th, 15th to 17th of February, when we gather in what? In that place called Addis Ababa. We shall be fighting with fists to make sure that we don't expel a Polisario front from the African Union. You know, Morocco came with an intention of disintegrating this country, this African Union. They are not interested. And that could break African Union to pieces. So we have enemies.
Now, Doctor, why is it that Morocco has never wanted, if you look at the history of the Polisario and the Morocco government, there was how we call it, United Nations resolution that was passed, but it has never been implemented. Are you still going to back, or you are implementing what the United Nations had talked about, the resolution?
I back Polisario front. I don't care damn. If they remove us, we fight on. We shall give them arms to fight up to the end. Wacha tuambiane ukweli sasa, tutapigana. We can't allow one country to colonize another country when colonialism has ended in Africa. The Polisario people are black, our black friends, like the ones in Darfur. So they are being stepped on because they are black Arabs. And there is quite a lot of platinum and uranium in Western Sahara. That's why Morocco does not want to give up the territory of Morocco, of Western Sahara.
Now, are you disregarding the United Nations resolution?
What is United Nations, my foot? What does the United Nations, my foot? What? What are you talking about? Why is the United Nations not telling Al-Shabaab to keep quiet? Why are they giving them tickets and surrendering the observer team to go and listen in Doha? What are they doing in Doha? Wait, watcha. Don't bring me, please, don't tell me UN. UN is a dead body. UN is just diplomats eating our food around these places. You show me what they are. You know very well, today Somalia has been given $41 million to do what? Where does this $41 million go? They are buying apartments in Nairobi. Yes. Don't bring me this. Where, my friend? No.
So they don't govern.
Where is it? You give Somalia money, they bring the money and bring it to Kenya. They buy apartments. Everybody in Africa wants to die apartment. Yeah, I can sleep on a tree. And where I've reached, I can sleep on a tree. As long as Africa is united, I'm happy to sleep on a tree. Did you hear that?
The new government says that since they took over power, the attack by Al-Shabaab has reduced.
That is correct. But Al-Shabaab, that's true. Al-Shabaab has moved from the rural areas back to town, and it is hammering us in the city. So who is this? Who is hiding them in the city? Who has moved them to town? Qatar should be knowing. You remember Qatar and UAE started fighting first in Mogadishu. When that fight started in Mogadishu, United Arab Emirates went out. They went out very annoyed. They went to Pundaland, Hargeisa. When they went to Hegesia, they started popping up the government. They are doing projects. Qatar remained at the core of the government of Farimajo. They have been there in the core, and they know why they are destabilizing this country is because their man is left. So the new president comes into power, they changes the policy, arms the people are chasing Al-Shabaab. Isn't it hallelujah? Yeah, that's how politics is. Is the tape ready, man? Or there is a problem?
It's ready now.
Okay, fine. Play it. Let's listen.
This is a Channel Africa podcast. You can also get Channel Africa on satellite PAS10, DSTV audio bouquet 802, and OpenView bouquet channel 628.
Now, Dr. Matsanga, we spoke about this, I think, sometime last week, and the fact that Africa is open for business, and looking at the different parts of the region where the Western leaders are literally hitting the African continent. What's your take on this?
First of all, the Western leaders have seen stiff competition coming from the Eastern leaders of China and Russia, who are coming in, making inroads in Africa. And Africa must be very careful not to be part and parcel of a new Cold War that is returning, where Russia goes, European Union follows the following day. So we have to be very, very, extremely, very careful. And I'm happy with the way South Africa is hosting and telling them that as much as we need all of you, we are not aligned to any forces that could actually bring us a Cold War on the continent of Africa. It doesn't surprise you then that the Russian foreign minister was in South Africa. The European Foreign Affairs Commissioner is on his way into Africa. The United States Secretary for Treasury was in Africa, in seeing from Senegal, Zambia, and South Africa. It doesn't surprise you. But it now depends on the African people themselves to arrange themselves, to prepare themselves for this type of diplomacy that is going to start knocking on their doors, so that we don't fall a victim of this great war that is taking shape in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine.
You previously touched on the different agreements that are signed, whether between the Chinese, the Russians, and the US or the EU. Now, looking at the differences and how each country handles their negotiations, let's put to the table the issue with the Zambia debt. That is the debt to the Chinese government. How should this be handled? Because the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke of the fact that maybe they need to renegotiate that debt agreement with China. Should the U.S. have a say in this?
No, the U.S. did not lend the money. The Zambians picked the money on behalf of the people of Zambia. And therefore, that is why I'm telling you, in international relations, when you see such statements coming out, it means there is an interference that is about to come. The United States of America is trying to interfere with what China has already succeeded in this country. In these countries on this continent of Africa. You can see very well the United States of America plus Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia, they have signed an agreement to have supply chains which are already taken over by the Chinese. And this is something that Africa must not sit and watch when it develops into a great crisis. Zambia knows very well it took money from China to put up the supply chains that are in that region. Then the United States of America, with the new president of Zambia, my friend HH,
He has decided to switch allegiance from the Chinese and switch allegiance to America. So what he should do first, ask America to pay back the Chinese money. That is all. That would be very good if the Americans are coming in. But America has no right to tell Zambia that we should, or China, to renegotiate the agreements. You see, the crisis that is around that region, with the putting up of, I have never seen a base, an American base, being in an interior of an African country. Bases are found on the Port Sea of Maputo, Dar es Salaam, Durban, Port Elizabeth. You can put a base there, Cape Town. But why did you, Djibouti, we have a base, an American base, inside in Zambia? What is it for? Is it to have access to some of the most precious minerals that are coming out of Democratic Republic of Congo and Zambia? So we have a problem there already.
They've
So
also got a
for
base
anybody
in
to tell-
Botswana, if I'm not mistaken.
They have a base in Botswana, and you know what the base has been doing in Botswana. Apart from listening ground, it is just a listening ground. Is it anything? What does it help us in the SADC? Does it come to spring on when the war breaks out? How many Americans have gone into to silence the war in Mozambique? How many? Did they give us logistical support? It is in Botswana. Does it give us support when the rebels took over the northern part of Mozambique? So you can see the aim of these bases within Africa is just to create, to fight back, to take back the territory that the Chinese had already taken, or Russia. That's why you see right now that in and out diplomacy, that is shuttle diplomacy, what I could call shuttle diplomacy from the Western Hemisphere, to neutralize the presence of the Russians and the Chinese influence in African countries. And
Dr.
going to
Matsanga,
happen-
what should South Africa do in terms of all the leaders coming through, and each country has their own demands of what they expect South Africa to do and how they should behave. We saw that with Janet Yellen stressing the issue with South Africa's stance when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. With all of that, how do you think President Ramaphosa and his government should handle the relations between all three parties?
Non-alignment. South Africa is a member of the non-alignment movement. We should go back to the non-aligned movement. South Africa supported the non-aligned movement since 1994 when we came. It has just died. What most African countries have done, and most third world countries have done, they have failed to put a non-aligned movement back to the rail. When Fidel Castro was alive, Yugoslavian Tito Marshal Tito was alive, Indira Gandhi was alive. This movement was very crucial in neutralizing the communists and the Western Hemisphere influence over decisions in the whole world. So what South Africa should do, and what President Ramaphosa, you know why they're interested in President Ramaphosa? Because South Africa is already a member of the BRICS, and therefore they don't want South Africa to be very instrumental with Brazil and other countries. And now Saudi Arabia and other countries are coming in to say, hello, we better change course. We better start doing something differently. So that's why you see they are putting pressure on President Ramaphosa and his government to make sure that he doesn't, accept. They will come with a lot of, sweet things, incentives, to try to give incentives so that South Africa does not lead us the way. South Africa is a leader on the continent of Africa in terms of foreign policy and foreign management. Therefore, we look at South Africa as the spear, the eye of Africa. When they tell us to go, we go. So South Africa should remain steady the ship, create a non-aligned movement, which you don't take in. Because some of these countries really in the West, for example, America makes promises
but most of the promises come within 4 years. A new government has changed. Another man, a radical like Trump, comes in, cancels everything that he promised.
Yeah, things change. Now, Dr. Matsanga, I can't let you go before asking you, we need to wrap this up. Speaking of the European countries and Western countries, we see what the Sahel countries are now doing. First it was Mali, and now Burkina Faso has basically told the French and the French President Emmanuel Macron to leave their country and they will sort out their military issues in that country. What's your take on what's taking place in the Sahel and with regards to now the fact that these European countries and these whether China, Russia are now realizing that Africa is open for business?
Let me tell you, the problem of Sahel begins with the killing of Muammar Gaddafi. And Muammar Gaddafi had stopped the Sahel region from becoming an Al-Qaeda ISIS enclave. The killing of Muammar Gaddafi and destruction of Libya is the result you see in Mali, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, all those places, Chad, Central African Republic. ISIS is growing. The Al-Qaeda cells have come back and they are operational. Nigeria, you don't tell me that there's an election in Nigeria. Lulu, it will be a miracle for you to have an election in Nigeria where kidnap is the daily issue, bread for the people of Nigeria. So what is happening in the Sahara region? The French policy has not worked on security. The French seem to be coming to take the minerals, but they are not bothered about Africans being butchered. Therefore, the generals, the younger captains, the younger lieutenants, the younger generals who are coming up, taking over governments there, are changing direction.
That podcast was courtesy of Channel Africa.
4, 3, action.
Thank you very much, viewers across the continent of Africa. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. You have heard for yourselves what I said. And what I've said is not very far from what exactly we have been talking about. The shuttle diplomacy, the type of arrangement, the expectations. Why Africa? And why Africa? Then, therefore, it raises the question, when will Africa stand on its own and take an aligned movement? I end here by saying thank you very much, viewers. Thank you, and try to see Miriam. That is what I'm going through to do what I'm supposed to do. Any comments from you on that, those who have listened, the tape can be available for you. Already download and see what sense I made out of that shuttle diplomacy. When, why, whichever side we change, all these people are colonizers. China is also going to colonize us, but at least, even if it colonizes us, it has given us the roads. We can take our goods and sell. The others are coming in to counter, only to frustrate. It's like mtu ako uko na deni, lakini mtu anakuja kukuharibia pale ulitoa pesa ya deni. Have you seen that? Anakuharibia. So thank you very much. Wanda, goodbye. Anything you want to say?
Your submission that you've just listened to was quite on point. The only thing that I can say, I can say as a part, that let our political leaders not make us start looking at politicians as an overrated department. They have a mandate of ensuring that the countries and continent are in order. So as they negotiate on behalf of the continent, let them do it soberly so that we don't get to a point and look at all the rains that are beating us, that are all coming from the decisions that our politicians make, our political leadership, that we now get to a point and imagine that politics in Africa is overrated because for so many years we give them the mandate to negotiate on behalf of us, behalf of the continent, but we keep getting it the wrong way. We gave them the mandate to negotiate on behalf of us. They drove us to ICC. Today, our African court is dead. We keep giving them the mandate, but we keep seeing our economy going down and down. We keep seeing fighting in the continent from one country to the other. We keep seeing conflict from one country to the other. So let them do things the right way so that we don't, as a people, get to a point and look at politicians and politics as an overrated department, and probably people start thinking in the other way around. I yield.
Miriam, thank you very much, Elvis Wanda. As we come to a conclusion, your comments?
Yeah, I think you've touched, almost summarized everything that we've been saying, and that much of also some of the things that we've talked about here. And I think maybe South Africa is at a place where, in a position where it can be able to influence, maybe perhaps its voice matters in this war. So however and whichever and whatever place we can get that war in Ukraine to stop, if South Africa can do it, then why not? We just need that senseless war to stop so that the world can move on. So if South Africa can do it, then let it go ahead and try to mediate there.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I don't go. Those tapes are coming. Today I'm doing another show on the same television station and the radio station. It's one of the biggest radio stations across the continent of Africa. At about 20 minutes past 1 o'clock East African time, I'll be on it. Listen to it if you can. But otherwise, thank you very much from me, this side of the island of past Mediterranean. Thank you. And you across our good continent of Africa. Thank you. God bless you. And enjoy the 3 p.m. East African time show. I can see it is being eaten like a food in some places. Thank you very much, and give a smile when it comes to the time of the smile. Thank you very much. I always smile when people are watching it and they're making comments in my presence. I just smile. Thank you very much, Miriam. Keep it going in the headquarters. Wherever you are, across the continent of Africa, this has been Global Trends, Matsanga's Global Trend. Tomorrow, we look at another subject, security. That's where Miriam, I'm told she's an expert now, and she has studied it. You leaders, create the topic you want us to discuss. I leave it to you today. Then we come up with it tomorrow on our security show. Global terrorism, is it moving? Is it coming down? Or we are even increasing with the flight of very many people? Where did these Afghanistans go, the ones that were brought to Uganda? Does anybody know where they are? Are some already not in Kenya? Given the fluid border for us?
But Doc, judging from what you've been telling us here about the surveillance and the security apparatus in Uganda, that's why we don't see a lot of intensified Al-Shabaab activities there because of the government's intelligence and surveillance. I think Ugandans have nothing to worry about. I want to believe, the government is on it, judging from how they've been handling the issues of security and extremism in this region.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miriam. This station is for Africa, with Africa by Africa Child.
Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.